Hi, and welcome to the Personal Side of Business, where every business has a story. I'm your host, Jet Bunditwong, and today my guest is Lindsay Hinger. She's a business law specialist with the SBTDC in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. She specializes in helping veteran-owned and military spouse-owned businesses. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jet. Appreciate it.
So tell us, how did we get here?
Oh my goodness. How did we get here? Okay. I grew up in North Carolina, and I'm a Tar Heel, not born, but bred for sure. After I went to UNC Chapel Hill, I went into the Air Force and was stationed in Hawaii for a couple of years. I was specializing in logistics. After I got out of the Air Force, I stayed in logistics in the commercial space for a few years, and that was a thankless job. And then I started my first business in 2016. I sold that 3 years later, but not before starting another company in 2018, which I ran until 2023. And then after that, I started, before I closed the second business, I started working for the SBTDC. So that's how I got here.
Well, what was the connection that brought you to the SBTDC?
So when I had my first business, I went to an event with NC Vet Biz, the North Carolina Veterans Business Association, and that's for veteran and military spouse business owners. While I was there, the president of the association told me about the SBTDC, and of course I was like, the what? Because let's face it.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to say and hard to remember. But after repeating it multiple times and then finally writing it down and going home, I went ahead and, put in a request for counseling, and I became a client. And I was a client through both of my businesses. And the resources that I was given as a client were so good that I continue to give a lot of the same resources now to the people that I counsel.
That's great. Now, what were your two businesses that you had?
So the first one was a subscription box business for military spouses. So it was a monthly care package that the female girlfriend, fiancés, and spouses got. And it was kind of a reverse care package that they got on a monthly basis. And I thought it would be really cool if most of the products came from other military spouse-owned and veteran-owned businesses. So I parlayed that concept into my second business, and I sold custom gift boxes in bulk using only those suppliers. That was my second business.
Now, what I'm curious about the challenge that might give to your business, because you're outsourcing it to all these different military, either spouses or veteran-owned businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And they probably are moving around, and they could come up with some sort of logistical issue or some sort of sourcing issue. Did you have to deal with that at all?
Oh, for sure. Supply chain crunches. I started in 2016, so I was in operation during COVID. And, of course, there were big supply chain issues. In fact, it actually was beneficial with the biggest customer that I had, which was Johnson & Johnson. Progressively over the years, they wanted us to source closer and closer to home. And by the time I was done with the second business, Johnson & Johnson was demanding that we had everything made in America from start to finish.
Wow. That
was hard. Oh my gosh, so hard, especially because they had a budget.
Yeah.
And that stuff's not cheap.
Yeah. What percentage at the time when you dealt with that were products made in the U.S. and ones that were outsourced? Do you remember, roughly, was it like a 50-50, or did you have 60-40?
Probably about 60-40 domestic.
Yeah.
Because, we had to balance between getting all, as many made in America products as possible, which sometimes they were, handmade by military spouses, versus something more like on the promotional product side, like a mug that we have imprinted here in the States, but it comes from China.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a balance of and a mix of those products, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and well, how did you deal with the Johnson & Johnson situation? Was it easy to just remedy? Did you just tell everyone, go, hey, by the way, this is what your deal, and if you can supply it, you know, great.
Yeah, I mean, I just acted very proactively, and we tried to get ahead of it. We tried to let them know that there would be delays if there were going to be delays. And again, just trying to source closer to home so that it wouldn't be an issue.
Did you lose any vendors during that process?
We lost vendors that closed because of COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and, you know, probably because of the supply chain issues that they were having.
And I'm curious, did they give you a reason why they were only wanting domestically, you know, made products?
Just more initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah. Over the years, they value made in America products. And, you know, at first, our commitment was to provide only products that were veteran owned or military spouse owned. And that meant, you know, it could come from overseas and then be decorated here or finished here or whatever. And that evolved into made in America completely from start to finish.
And how did you figure out what type of vendors you were going to use for those packages?
So really, I had a formula for each box. It was kind of my baseline. It was, I want something that you can feel, that excites, that helps, that you can eat or drink, and then one more thing, and I can't remember what that was.
But those were always to be in one box.
Right.
Okay.
Because I wanted to involve all the senses. And I wanted it to be very well-rounded. And so I would actually come up with a theme and then just imagine what would be best in the box according to the theme. And then I would go and find it. And that's what made it so hard, is that I wasn't like approached by people who had products and they're like, look at my product. And then I created a whole box around it. I created a box around my imagination. And it made it really cool because the themes really worked well together because they were just come up with by, you know, my imagination and not just trying to put puzzle pieces together.
How long from conception to actually shipping out a box did that take to put all those different vendor items in together?
Oh, I had it down to a short period of time. I mean, I only did my themes out by like 2 months, I think. Yeah, because I worked with small suppliers, they had to have more time and more notice. But I'm a procrastinator, so that made it really difficult. That was a big rub right there. Was, you know, I wanted to wait until the last minute because I'm still dealing with this month's theme.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even put my head around this upcoming one, and but you have to.
Yeah.
For your small suppliers, you know.
What were some of the items that, if you can remember, that sold the best or that were requested or, you know, customer
Like
feedback?
the most interesting themes, I guess, could be, we had a cookout box that was a beer and brats like recipe that was printed, and it was beautiful. It was like this beautifully printed recipe for brats or something like that. And then like a dish towel that was printed with, it was like specific to your branch of military. There was a bamboo cutting board in it, spices from a veteran-owned barbecue company. I can't remember what else was in that box, but usually we did 4 to 7 items.
Yeah.
And averaged about 5. And so that was a really good box. There was, There was one that I remember we created a shot glass with a middle finger on it. And it was like, here's my salute or something like that we put on the shot glass. And it was kind of a cheeky box that we had. The whole thing was like, don't talk to me crooked, basically. Or you're going to get.
Did that do well in certain regions of the country?
So I think the best reviews that one got was from the South. The people in the South appreciated it the most. But it wasn't one of the one-time boxes. I think we sold out that month. So I didn't have it on the website to be able to really tell you.
So just to talk about the structure of the home business. So it's an e-commerce space, right? And you would have to order whatever's on the website, or you can make it customized.
When people signed up, they signed up with their military branch and their shirt size. And that was as customized as it was going to get.
Yeah.
Because each month I would send out boxes to everyone who was signed up, and then whatever boxes I had left over, I would put on the website as one-time purchases. So if I had 5 Air Force boxes, then, and that was it, then an Army person would be out of luck, that kind of thing. So as if they wanted a box each month, they'd have to subscribe.
Okay. All right. And what was the difference in the second business that you learned from the first business to change, make better?
Oh, that's easy. Business to business is a lot more fun than business to consumer. That's what I learned. I love people in general, but the general public is not as fun,
to deal with as a customer base, I guess. That
yeah.
What were some of the things that made it not enjoyable? Was it just sometimes you get complaints, people would want something else, and
or like I had one woman who she went through every branch of the military. I was like, "Are you dating each branch of the military?" And she gave me a hard time. Like, she complained about stuff. She would sign up and then cancel immediately. But
she keep coming back.
She kept coming back, though. So I'm like, I can't fire the customer because she keeps giving me money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there were a couple weird situations like that.
With e-commerce, I always think it's tough, right? Because I've had an e-commerce business myself, and I think one of the things that you end up falling into is that sort of, I don't know, e-commerce purgatory, where, like what you're saying, you're angry at the customers for complaining. Dude, you're like, this is a product. Don't buy it. But you're also like, oh, it's customers keep coming in, and you just have to have to live with some of that.
Yeah,
right?
You have to take it as it comes and store it away. Store those comments away, and it informs how you move forward.
Yeah,
it does, and you have to determine, is this person an outlier, or are they representing a majority of my customers by this complaint?
Yeah,
that makes a big difference, but sometimes you can spot the outliers.
Yes, yeah. Did you lose sleep? All right.
I did not, because I was married and I had my husband had a full-time job, and so I knew that I was safe. I felt safe in that situation. I knew that I couldn't let my business die, and I had no intention of doing that. So selling it was an accomplishment, but yeah, no, I didn't really lose too much sleep.
Yeah, those feedbacks, they would always get to me. And they got easier as time went on. Like you would get like a complaint or bad review, but you're just like, what are you doing? Just because I always think of myself as a customer, like how much effort or or instance that goes wrong that brings me to put forth the effort to make a bad complaint. Like, it needs to be pretty high. Like,
That's true.
I need to have like the product.
But
just
you're
fall
not
apart,
everyone.
you know?
You're not everyone. And there are some people who it'll take nothing for them to complain.
And
You
they
know,
just keep
some
going
people
back.
just want to complain.
Yeah, I never understand that. I don't like your product, but I bought another one of your products. What was the biggest thing you learned about how after those two businesses?
The biggest thing I learned,
The most important thing you learned?
the most important thing was that I need to have difficult conversations. And that I thought I was confrontational before the businesses, but it turns out I'm not. I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to confrontation, because I had a 1099 employee with my second business, and it wasn't going well. The relationship wasn't going well. And instead of addressing it, that was part of the reason that I closed the company down, because I didn't feel like anyone else could really do what we were doing as well as we were doing, me and this one woman. But I never had the tough conversation about, I think you need to have a come to Jesus meeting, let's look at the core values, let's realign with each other and make sure that we're both rowing in the same direction,
Do you think you could have those conversations now?
Absolutely. So I closed my second business, and part of the reason that I closed it was I was already working for the SBTDC. I had my plate full with that job, and I had lost a lot of my passion for what I was doing. And then I also had that contractor, and that wasn't going well. And to be honest, like, I had a really great customer, and they kept coming back, and they kept giving me more money and more money. But I only had one big contract, and I felt like one big contract is not what you can sell. That's not a business, just having one big customer. So, and I just didn't have bandwidth to prepare it to sell either. So I shut it down. But going through that, knowing that I had made all that money and then I just walked away from it, it burns, it stings, and I know that going forward, I am not going to make that same mistake because it burns.
And I'm guessing you're going to advise differently, or not differently, but give people, try to see that different outcome possibility for their business, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe sell it, or, have someone else run it so they can, do something else with their lives. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that is a reoccurring issue that I see over time for businesses, especially for those baby boomers that have put their lives into this business, and they're just like, I think I'm just going to close it down. Like, why are you not trying to figure out a plan to either sell it, make something off of it? You spent 25 years building this business, or let someone run it and get percentage of it. Why do you think people, especially, or possibly veterans and military spouses, might not see that path to sell it or continue it in some other fashion where they're not a day-to-day, operator anymore?
Well, I think it's not specific to military spouses and veterans. I think most people, when they get into a business, don't think about their exit strategy. I know I didn't. I just knew it had to start and it had to go. I didn't think about how it would end. So, but also, if military people are at an advantage, it would probably be because they don't have examples, not as many as you would in the civilian world.
Yeah. What obstacles have you encountered that veterans and military spouses deal with that might be different from the general public?
Yeah. So, like I said, just experiencing a network of people who are in corporations or in small businesses or large businesses. You don't really experience that. You don't rub elbows with those people while you're in the military. And while the military does push innovation forward, there's also that dying culture of this is how we've always done it. So it's very process oriented as well. And when someone gets out of the military and goes into entrepreneurship, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's the wild, wild west, you know, like there are no SOPs to follow. What am I doing?
And it's probably like coming from a really structured situation to you're on your own. You do whatever you need to do to survive.
And, you know, something that I talk to military people about all the time is that you learn so much about teamwork while you're in the service. You need to use that when you get out. You can go really fast by yourself, but you can't get really far. So putting together a team around you can be extremely beneficial. And I think when veterans get out, they're kind of loners until they find their tribe again.
Yeah. And when the clients that you're dealing with, what kind of industries are predominantly coming to you? Have you noticed?
I've had a lot of clients lately who are trying to service the baby boomers, the silver tsunami. I've had somebody who wants to help older people with mobile phones, with non-medical transportation. I hear that quite a bit lately. Just care in general for older folks.
What education resources are available to veterans and military spouses?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. So contact me if you'd like to know more. But honestly, I have put together a resource guide, and it's just, I think, 3 pages long, but it's a bunch of resources all across the nation. And it goes from like venture capital firms to entrepreneurial programs. Some of them have capital associated with them and some don't. There are specific companies that help veterans with franchises that people don't know about.
Wow. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, VetFran is one. And IVMF is the Institute of Veterans and Military Families, and they're out of Syracuse University. They have so many programs that veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs can engage in. Like I went to their Veteran Edge conference 2 years in a row while I had my business. And that experience spurred me on to my second business. And it was so worthwhile to go. And I think it was free except for the travel part. You just had to get there and stay.
Now, does that change if you were someone overseas as opposed to being in the United States? What difference is there in terms of resources and I guess operations of business?
Very good question. So I would say that if you're overseas, your resources are limited because there are some programs like DAV's Patriot Boot Camp. That's in Cincinnati, Ohio. You can't get there if you're across the world. So
it's not like you can do a remote call-in and get assistance?
Not for that program. Wow. So it depends on the program, you know. And we've actually developed a deployment checklist and a return from deployment checklist for people in those situations that, you know, they're going to have to leave their business to someone else. We've got you got to cross all your T's and dot all your I's with talking to your attorney and your insurance broker and getting everybody up to date on new contact information and all that stuff. So
I'm going to speculate here and tell me if I'm correct or not, and I haven't looked this up, but I have, living in San Diego, I've spoken to military spouses in different lines of work that I've been in, and I've noticed that when they start a business, because it's usually a remote controlled type of business, right? Because they have to get moved around.
Right.
But then a lot of times there's this. It's tough. It's tough to keep running that because I've met military spouses that they have the kids. They're trying to start this business, and that energy kind of gets lost with raising the family, and they're trying to do this in the hours of like 9 to 12 at night, and they're exhausted, and then eventually they get shipped overseas, and they're just like, okay, I'm going to end this right now. I'll come back to it whenever we come back. What is your advice for those spouses that are struggling through that and go, I want to see this dream come true one day and fully develop, but there's all these life hurdles that keep getting thrown my way?
Damn, that's a hard question, Jet.
I don't know.
Jeez. Let's see. What advice would I give? I would say to have quarterly goals and to focus on those quarterly goals. Maybe even have a one-page business plan where you have those goals highlighted. That way it would kind of serve as your true north. That way, when all of the other things pop up, you can still head in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think a lot of times I don't know if anyone's ever sat down with me and was like, oh, I mapped this out, I'm going to do this. It's a lot of times just like, I was up one night, I saw this, I saw a little commercial online, and I started getting involved in it. I'm going to do this. But I think if there's this business plan that has this weakness in it, and go, what happens if I do get shipped out? What's my next step to it?
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier.
How do you mitigate that?
Yeah. And are there certain businesses or industries that you feel that a military spouse can get into that might be better suited for getting shipped out, travel, and maybe someone has 2-3 kids and trying to keep that all together?
So I would say probably tech, remote tech positions, or not positions, but tech companies. So building websites, things like that you can do with clients all over the world at any time.
Yeah.
Virtual assistants, if you can stay within the time zone, that's beneficial.
Is there any that you like? What do you mean? Like any industries that you really are like, I see the future for this, for veterans and military spouses, that you think will really be good?
Drone manufacturing.
Ooh, I like that.
That is what North Carolina needs right now.
Yeah.
And I think the veterans are going to lead the way in that. I'm pretty close with the Defense Technologies director at the North Carolina Military Business Center, and they're really pushing for drone manufacturing right now. They actually did I tell you this? They had Ukrainian veterans come in and talk to our organization about all the drone warfare that's going on in the Ukraine right now. And there's a national push for drone production here in the U.S.
Wow.
And there are 0 drone manufacturing companies in North Carolina right now. So guess what my next venture's going to be? I'm just kidding.
So is that difficult to get into from start to finish?
Beats me. I just came up with this idea this week. I have not looked into it, but no, I've got a client who, I can't talk about that. I've got a client who's involved in drone technology, and so I know a little bit about it, but I don't know that much.
Wow. I mean, it's great, right? It's just try to find something that is the demand is there, right? And I think that's, I think with a lot of young, and I don't mean that young in age, I mean young in entrepreneurship age, I guess you can say. When people start their business journey, and I've talked about this before, that there's this desire to get into stuff that you know,
Yes.
right? And then you're like, well, I make this all the time, or I watch this, a lot of this, and it's not always what's in demand. And that
Right.
demand is sometimes so far from where you are.
Yes.
that you're like, I can't do that. And then, but I've met people, I've advised to businesses that come in and go, I'm going to learn this. And that's, I think, one of the most admirable things in business owner entrepreneurship are people that don't really know enough about industry and go put their foot forward and just keep going and learning it. And then one day they're like, I have a really successful business because I decided to just take the initiative. But it's because no one else was really doing it.
Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. It was see you flying drones and making drones all of a sudden.
Hell yeah.
You're like, I am bombing the hell out of this. If you could go back to your younger business self, what advice would you give to yourself that might change your whole entire, both businesses?
I think I would have thought through the fulfillment aspect of what I did more thoroughly. However, if I had, I probably wouldn't have started the business, because that was a big issue. Every time I would sell, in the back of my mind, I'd be like, oh crap, that means I got to do all the work, right? But then I looked into fulfillment, outsourcing fulfillment, and it took so much of the margin away that it was not worth it, right? So it's a tough spot to be in, to want to sell and then not want to sell at the same time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially when they get into e-commerce, feel that way. They're like, I just want to put this on autopilot.
Right.
And that autopilot costs money.
It does.
Yeah.
It costs a lot.
And I wish there was another way, right? And I think, I've had this conversation with some e-commerce clients that are looking to get into certain platforms to sell on there. And I'm like, it might not be the long-term solution. It just might be for you to get your brand out there and let people see it. And once that happens, you can pull back and go, we're just selling this on the website now because we want to keep more of the profits. But it's almost like a necessary evil, right? To get on the Amazon, the Etsy's, the all those eBays, and start to get your stuff out there. And you're like, well, I'm losing like 20% more on there,
Right.
but what am I supposed to do, right?
It's for visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the steps that hurt you, but then there has to be this long-term financial plan to go, okay, we can do this for 8 months just to get ourselves out there, and then we stop and we do this. But I think a lot of people forget that part. They're just like, we're going to get on here and we're selling. I mean, I think at one point I was guilty of it too when I was selling on Amazon, and I was like, oh, I'm not making money. I'm just breaking even on there, but people are buying. So there's that emotional satisfaction, but financially, you're like, this is kind of pointless. But then in the long term, it could help your business out. And well, we found you on there, but it led to the website. Now I'm starting to go to the website. So you might not sell at all. I guess that was the point that you were trying to make. You would go back to the future, stop yourself, go, never do this, and we're just going to do something else.
No, there are so many things I would tell myself. Like, I've learned so much from working at the SBTDC. Let me tell you, I tell my clients about my mistakes, and I don't mind talking about them at all. But those are mistakes that I'm not going to make again.
Yeah.
And it's because I've learned so much. Like, I took a long break from marketing during my business. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I literally went. So I have mental health issues, and I'm very open about that because I feel like you kind of have to be in order to end the stigma. And I had a serious breakdown, and I did not answer emails for about 3 months.
Wow.
I was out of it. And when I came back to my business, there was hardly anything there. I hardly had any subscribers left, because you have to stay engaged. But I've learned so much about marketing that, I know I was missing a marketing budget.
Yeah.
I did not spend money on marketing. I should have, because volume is how you make money in subscription boxes. You have to have volume. And I never got there, so it leads to a lot of frustration, and it feels like a hobby.
Yeah. And it's like those small moments. Well, I mean, like 3 months, it's a long time, but you
Yeah.
have those moments where you're trying to live your life outside of entrepreneurship and be able to function, but it has to somehow align with this chaos of a business that you are trying to get off the ground. And I have this theory that has no data to it, that is one of the biggest factors to derail a business, right? Like it,
What
and
is?
that your regular life is just not,
Oh, yeah.
right, like matching up with your business life. Because when
Yeah.
everything's in harmony, if you were a single person who was opening up a food truck and had extra cash to just let you do that for a year or two, and then have, I don't know, a great network of people, and you knew, like, all these things, if all these things align and it makes a business successful, you're like, that's great, right? It's easier. But then you have a single mother with 3 kids trying to run, let's say, a retail shop in a major city, and you have to try to get them back and forth from place. Like,
Right.
after a while, something's got to give, right? Either the business takes off in a short period of time, or you're just like, I can't keep this up because I need help, And if you don't have a resource of people or whatever it is to help you out, it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So I always think there could have been so many different businesses that we could have had in our lifetime that probably should have taken off, but didn't, because there was just something just didn't work right in
Yeah.
a certain aspect, right? And that was for you, 3 months. I mean, that could have, even if you went to 1 month, it could have changed everything, But
Yeah.
but you being here today in the bigger picture is more important than you losing your mental health over a business, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I wish there was, or there is, this some sort of resource that is not more technical, but more of a like a therapy resource for business owners. And I think that if that was available to coincide with all the technical aspects to help a business, we might see more successful businesses, percentage that actually, like, oh, that's all I needed was someone to really talk to, I mean, you and
I think you're right. I mean, there are a lot of business owners that can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And all they need is to hear something from a different perspective, or to be explained a different way, and they're off and running. So, I mean, maybe the next venture is therapeutic business coach.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't, I don't advise you on any part of the business. I just advise you.
Except your mental health.
Yeah. How to get through this. Yeah. So that's amazing and fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing. Where can people find you? On the internet?
LinkedIn. Yeah, on LinkedIn, Lindsay Hinger. I think I'm the only one. And
With an AY.
AY, yes, sir. LINDSAY. And my email address is lhinger, that's like singer, but with an H, lhinger @sbtdc.org.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.